Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we help you cut through the clutter and get to the insights that matter. Today, we're diving into something that could be a real game changer for safety professionals.
Yeah.
Especially those of you working with multiple government agencies.
Right.
We're talking OSHA record keeping. Now, before you zone out thinking about spreadsheets and paperwork, trust me.
Oh, yeah.
There's a shortcut hidden in these regulations that could save you a ton of time and effort.
For sure.
This deep dive is brought to you by Safety One Source, your go-to resource for staying on top of all things safety.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by the sheer volume of regulations out there.
Right.
But sometimes the answer is simpler than you might think.
All right, so what's this secret shortcut we're talking about? Is there some magic loophole that lets us skip the paperwork altogether?
Not quite a magic loophole, but there's a really interesting provision in OSHA's regulations, specifically Section 1904.3 that deals with record keeping for multiple agencies. Imagine this. You're already keeping meticulous records for another government agency, like the DOT or the EPA. What if I told you those records might already fulfill OSHA's requirements?
Wait, hold on. Are you saying I might be doing OSHA paperwork without even realizing it?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Wow.
There are two key scenarios where this could apply.
Okay.
First, if there's a formal agreement called a Memorandum of Understanding between OSHA and the other agency, stating that they'll accept those records in place of separate OSHA documentation.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a pre-approved shortcut, right?
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Even without that formal agreement, if the records you're keeping for the other agency happen to contain all the same information that OSHA requires, then those records are considered acceptable as well.
So it's like hitting two birds with one stone. But how would I even know if my existing records meet OSHA's requirements? That seems like a pretty big if.
It's a good question, and it's where things can get a little tricky. It's not just about having records, it's about having the right records with all the necessary details. You need to be meticulous and really compare your existing records to OSHA's specific requirements.
This feels like a huge opportunity for safety professionals.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like it could be a bit of a minefield.
Absolutely, and it's always better to err on the side of caution.
Right.
That's why we always recommend checking directly with OSHA or your relevant state agency to confirm whether your current records are sufficient.
Yeah.
They're there to help, and it's always better to get clarification up front than to face potential penalties down the road.
That's such a good point. I'm already imagining the peace of mind that would come from knowing you've got this covered. And I bet a lot of our listeners are wondering, where do I even begin to check for these memoranda of understanding or compare my records to OSHA's requirements?
That's where resources like Safety One Source come in. They provide tools and guidance to help you navigate these complexities and ensure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
Speaking of resources, I remember seeing some helpful contact information in the OSHA source material. They encourage you to visit www.osha.gov. Or call 1-800-321-OSHA if you have any questions. So you've got options.
And don't underestimate the value of local expertise. Reaching out to your nearest OSHA office or your state agency can be incredibly beneficial. They can provide specific guidance based on your location and industry, which can be invaluable.
Wow, okay. I am already feeling way less stressed about OSHA record keeping.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel less like a chore and more like a strategic opportunity. You know, working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And that's what we're all about here on the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Helping you find those efficiencies and make your lives as safety professionals a little bit easier.
I love it.
Yeah. It's all about recognizing that you're probably already doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Right.
It's just a matter of connecting the dots and making sure everything aligns.
So let's break this down for our listeners.
Okay.
Imagine you're a safety manager at a construction site, and you're already diligently keeping records for the Department of Transportation.
Right.
What are some things you should look for to see if those records might already satisfy OSHA?
That's a great example. You'd want to make sure your records include details like the date and time of each incident.
Okay.
A clear description of what happened, the type of injury or illness, the number of days away from work, or restricted duty.
Got it.
Essentially, all the key elements OSHA requires.
So it's kind of like a checklist.
Yeah.
You're comparing your existing records to OSHA's requirements and seeing if you've ticked all the boxes.
Precisely. And remember, even small variations in terminology or data points can make a difference.
Oh, well, okay.
That's where those resources we mentioned earlier, like Safety One Source and direct contact with OSHA, can be invaluable in making sure you're on the right track.
Right, because the last thing anyone wants is to think they're in compliance, only to discover they've missed a crucial detail.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to approach this with a healthy dose of caution and to seek expert guidance when needed.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second and consider a different scenario.
All right.
Let's say you're working in a manufacturing setting and already reporting safety data to the EPA.
Okay.
Would those records have any potential overlap with OSHA requirements?
You might be surprised. Depending on the specific industry and the type of data you're collecting for the EPA, there could absolutely be some crossover.
Right.
For example, if you're tracking chemical exposures or hazardous waste disposal procedures, that information could be relevant to OSHA as well.
So it's worth taking the time to compare those records too, right?
Absolutely. And that's where the concept of streamlining comes in. Instead of viewing each agency's requirements as separate silos, look for those areas of overlap and see if you can leverage your existing efforts to satisfy multiple requirements simultaneously.
This is making me think about all the different areas where we might be duplicating efforts without even realizing it. It's like finding hidden pockets of efficiency.
Exactly. And it's not just about saving time and paperwork. It's about optimizing your safety management system as a whole.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
This isn't just a record-keeping hack.
Right.
It's a mindset shift.
And it's a mindset shift that can pay off big time by being more strategic and intentional about how you approach safety management.
Yeah.
You can free up resources, reduce stress, and ultimately create a safer and more efficient workplace.
It's been so eye-opening. It feels like we've unlocked a whole new level of safety management mastery.
And that's what we're here for, to help you navigate the complexities of safety regulations and empower you to create a safer and more sustainable work environment.
So for our listeners who are ready to start uncovering these hidden efficiencies in their own work, what's our next step? What should they do after listening to this deep dive?
The first step is to take a deep breath and realize that you're not alone in this. There are resources available to help you, whether it's Safety One Source, your local OSHA office, or other trusted safety professionals in your network.
Right. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
There's no shame in seeking guidance, especially when it comes to something as important as workplace safety.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power.
I love that.
The more you understand about OSHA's requirements and the potential for streamlining your efforts, the better equipped you'll be to create a truly effective and efficient safety management system.
This has been an incredibly valuable deep dive. I feel like we've given our listeners a lot to think about and some real actionable steps they can take to improve their safety processes.
Absolutely. It's all about working smarter, not harder. And sometimes that means looking for those hidden efficiencies that are right under our noses.
Couldn't agree more. We often get so caught up in the day-to-day demands of our jobs that we miss those opportunities to streamline and simplify.
But taking the time to step back and assess your processes can pay huge dividends in the long run.
It's like that saying, sharpen the saw.
Right.
Taking a little time to refine your tools and processes can make a world of difference in your overall productivity and effectiveness.
Precisely. And when it comes to safety management, that efficiency can translate into a safer and healthier work environment for everyone.
So to wrap things up,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is this. Don't assume you have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to OSHA record keeping. There's a good chance you're already collecting valuable data that can satisfy those requirements. It's just a matter of knowing where to look and how to leverage those existing efforts.
And remember, resources like Safety One Source are there to guide you through this process.
Absolutely.
And ensure you're on the right track.
Yeah.
They can help you decipher those complex regulations, identify potential areas of overlap, and ultimately create a more streamlined and efficient safety management system.
It's all about empowering safety professionals with the knowledge and tools they need to create a safer and healthier world. And that's something we can all get behind.
Well said. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their insights today.
My pleasure.
And to Safety One Source for supporting this deep dive. We hope you found this information valuable and, most importantly, actionable.
Absolutely.
And to our listeners, remember, even the most seemingly mundane regulations can hold hidden gems of efficiency and opportunity. So keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep striving to create safer and more productive workplaces. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.